Hey everyone. Good afternoon. This is Cheryl Kuchek and David Gross coming live to you. And we are going to be talking about the different types of paper you can use for sublimation. And I think David's going to kind of give you the theory behind the paper. I'm just going to show you. Years ago, I tried regular copy paper and it worked fine on material. But when I went to go use it on substrates, on hard substrates, it was a hit and a miss. And the thing is that when you're paying big money for it, and you need it to be right, and you've got somebody that you're going to, sell it to, or somebody that's ordered something, you can't afford to have a hit and miss. So anyway, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you. So I'm excited about that. Hey, David, nice to see you. How are you?
Before we get to that, I'd like to talk about this. Do
Okay.
you know what? Do you know what this is?
Well, hold on because I was okay. What is
This is the A&E issue from August, and I think there's an article in here from a couple of people that we all know. Let's see if I can find it. Something about getting in a flip-flop state of mind. Do you know who might have wrote that?
I just
Written
want to
that?
know what you think about that title.
So I think it's more exciting than your paper title. Um, so
Well, David, I didn't hear you coming up with any exciting titles for me, and you still owe
at
me.
any rate, great article, and I
Thank
don't
you.
know what the deal is, but um, there's another article in here, essentially right after yours. So
Yes, yes.
um,
And that
I
would be
think this
from,
can be read online, folks. So I think if you just you Google, NBM A&E August, it's a flip book kind of thing, and go check it out. Um, if you wish, I'll pull your article, turn it into a PDF, and send it to you, and
that would be great, David. That
and
would be
I'll
great.
I'll pull mine as well. But mine is on the subless shrink, and then yours, of course, is on flip flops. And so
Yeah.
you know, um, all good things. By the way, on the subless shrink, we continue to add more sizes, and just a lot of exciting new products that will be coming along. Sprite is pushing for me to buy more and more ovens to test. Some of your folks, I think, pushed some oven, but again, we're looking for that perfect oven, and we've
You
not
should get the
found it.
Breville. It's an awesome one.
How do you spell that?
Breville.
So is it tall enough? Is it tall?
Well, it's
So we need it tall where we can stand up a water bottle in there.
oh
That's
no, it's
ideal.
not that. Yeah, that's not. It's not that tall.
So that's what we're after. But at any rate, just a lot of great, exciting products that are coming down the line that will rely on the subless shrink technology.
Okay, so we have some hellos here. We have it's kind of cool. We have the cool people here, they said. Um the cool folks are here. I love it. And let's talk about the summit, David. What?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
So
owe you, I owe you, of course, a long description of our classes, but very excited about it. And again, it's one of those kinds of things where we run a lot on autopilot, as we'll be in Secaucus next week for the NBM show there.
yep, we
But
will.
yours is coming up fast. Very exciting. So when I go to these things, I like them for two reasons, really. Number one is because I get to meet with folks and talk to them, and I learn so much. And then number two is hopefully I get to watch some of the classes as well, because you've got your banker friend that I hope
Oh
to
yeah.
be part of his class. And so I think the education part of this is certainly what I enjoy, is attending other people's classes, learning, thinking outside the box. We talk a lot in the sublimation world about getting out of your comfort zone, um, and I think that's so important. Flip flops being a good example. I talk to many people, and not in their wildest dreams would they ever consider selling flip flops. It would be the furthest thing from their
Yeah.
mind. But after they sell a pair, if you force them to, give them a pair to sample, they decorate it. You know, it's just amazing what a sale does to change people's minds. And so that's why I tell everybody, sample the products. For instance, I was talking to Sandy today, and I said, make sure Cheryl has some of the new textured products,
Oh yeah.
because the new textured products are selling very well, and
They're
they're
beautiful.
they're different. They're unique. They're different, and it's all about, some people just have a bad case of ADD like me. They want to see something different and new. They don't want to keep seeing the same thing, um, and I think that texture just shouts value.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, we have a lot of hellos. Martha says she's here. Diane made it. Hello, Cheryl and David. Sandy, hi gang. Dottie, hi. She's on the road. Joanne, hello all. Paula, Lisa, Barb, she's the one that said all the cool folks are here. Alice. Anyway, so we have a bunch of people on. So
Hey,
I just
Alice.
want to, yeah, I just want to repeat that what we're going to talk about today is the different types of paper that you can use with sublimation. And I literally, right before I went on, had somebody message me and say, by the way, did you see this? And have you ever tried it? And the answer is I have tried it. I absolutely
Yeah.
have tried it. Um, and again, for people that haven't tried it, it's I think in a pinch that you can use it. And of course, you're going to talk about what's
Yeah.
behind it, the mechanics behind it all.
Can
But I
can
want
I
to,
interrupt you just for a
yeah,
second? Is
sure,
is it
sure.
possible that we could squeeze Doug in before we get to the paper, and that way he can
Yeah, yeah,
go
he
back
can
to
go on
his
about
work?
his day. Absolutely. Hey, Doug.
Okay. Doug, and Doug, in case you don't know, this is Doug DeWitt. He is the product manager for our transfer paper products. And
Yep.
let me back out here. So,
We can't
what
see him.
transfer paper products are is it's the white toner products. It's the transfer papers that would be true
Hey,
transfer
Doug.
papers.
Good to see
Is the
you.
microphone working? You good?
Cheryl, can you hear me?
I can. I can.
Fantastic.
Looking good
Yeah,
there,
David
Doug.
wanted me to come on. Thanks. David wanted me to come on today. He said I could talk about anything I wanted to talk about as long as it was about Forever FlexSoft. So that's what I wanted to talk about was the FlexSoft material because we're big fans of FlexSoft here at Condi. I love it.
Yeah,
He loves
yeah,
it. You love it. Everybody should love it
absolutely.
because
Yeah,
I think it's one of the most revolutionary products to hit the transfer paper side since Nina came out with their image clip laser light, being able to weed a design without having to cut it.
yep,
We get so many inquiries about it. The most common question we get is, what kind of printer can I use? And that's what I wanted to touch base on today, because according to Forever Paper, according to their advertising, you can use any laser printer, whether that's
Yeah.
a color laser printer, a color laser copier, or a monochrome black and white laser printer. And of course, there's so many varieties out there. Where do you possibly begin? So I just kind of wanted to go through my checklist and offer a few tips, because
Cool.
my advice for anyone, if you're shopping for a printer looking to do flex off material, my first recommendation is a standard 4-color process color laser printer. And the reason I suggest that, Cheryl, is because when we're using it with flex off material, we're printing black, but with a 4-color process printer, we're printing a composite black. And for your audience out there, that's basically putting a layer of yellow, cyan, magenta, and true black all on top of one another. And the way that the forever self-weeding process works, you've got your foil sheet and you've got your transfer sheet or glue sheet. That glue sheet is feeling for a raised toner layer. So if you've got 4 layers of toner on that A foil sheet, odds are it's going to weed beautifully 98, 99% of the time. So that's the first style of printer that I would recommend. Now, when it comes to white toner printers like the Okies or the iColors, we could run flex off through those easily. As a matter of fact, the best way to run it is to turn the white off, because we're still using a composite black, a layer of yellow, a layer of magenta, a layer of cyan. So we've got 3 toner layers as opposed to the standard 4, but that's still enough toner for the sheet to weed properly. Where it starts to get iffy, so to speak, is when you use your white toner only in a white toner system, or when you use a monochrome system, because you're only putting down 1 toner layer. So while those systems can be used, there are certain precautions or certain adjustments that you need to make in prepping your designs in order to get them to weed on a consistent basis. So if anybody out there is using a white toner printer and they're only using a single layer of white toner, if you have a RIP program, the easiest fix is what they call the multiplication factor in the white channel control of the RIP. In the Forever Transfer RIP, it's a default of 1.00. It basically means a single pass of toner. If you increase that to 2, you're putting down 2 passes of white as opposed to 1. That extra layer of toner makes the weeding easier. But if you've got a monochrome printer, if you only put down a single layer of white, here are some tips and tricks, so to speak, to get around those issues where you may not get a clean weed every time, because we can only apply so much pressure with the heat press. If we apply too much, we start to get excess emulsion where it doesn't belong, and we end up ruining the design anyway. So what I've got here is I've got some Flexsoft that I printed through just a standard black and white laser printer. So this is just a single toner layer of black. So let's kind of go over just some quick tips on how you can get a single toner layer to weed successfully when you're dealing with flex off material. Now I'm going to be using the metallic silver here. One simple solution, and this is what we have to watch out for, whenever we put these 2 sheets together and weed it, when you lift your press, you may see a bit of waving within this A foil sheet, because what's happening is it's basically creating a little air pocket when we put the 2 sheets together. When we have an air pocket, a slight air pocket, we've got 4 layers of toner, no big deal. But when we've only got 1 layer, we've got to eliminate those little air pockets when we put our A foil and B sheet together. So here is the $2 solution, which is trimming your A foil. Basically, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the A foil sheet can be completely covered by the B sheet. And sometimes that's just as simple as trimming a small section away of your A foil, like I did here. So what we want to do is, when we take the blank side of our transfer sheet and we put it against the printed side of the A foil, we basically want the transfer sheet to completely cover the foil sheet, put it inside of our press, and heat at the recommended time and temperature. That will help eliminate some of the air pockets. Now, I'm going to go ahead.
That's
And
interesting,
press this
Doug.
one out.
Okay.
Now, what we're going to do with this one is we are going to follow Forever's instructions to the letter as far as time, temperature, and pressure, and then we're going to go ahead and weed this one. Now, some other simple tricks that you can employ, having something like a dry eraser. Now, the reason I would have something like this is after I heat my two sheets together, what I can do is while those two sheets are on the bottom flat and they're still warm, I can rub the back of the transfer sheet with this eraser to put a little bit of pressure and make it act almost like a squeegee, where I'm moving those air pockets out of the way. So I make sure that my hot transfer sheet comes in contact with that single layer of toner on the A foil. Now, another interesting thing that we've been playing around with, and this is what I'm going to call the $40 solution. Mr. Gross was kind enough to buy me this laminator off of Amazon. This is a 13-inch laminator that cost about $35 to $40. One thing that we can do is we can use a laminator to help fuse our A foil and B sheet before we move it to the heat press. And the reason we would want to do something like that, again, is to drive out any potential air bubbles that might take place between the A foil and B sheet. So that sound means this part should be done. And this is just protective paper here because I like to be cautious. The rub technique, where we're basically rubbing the two sheets, only takes about 5 to 10 seconds, and you only need to rub where you can see toner through the sheet. But now, as we start to separate the two, I got a clean weed attempt from a single toner layer. Okay, so that's one technique that we can employ. We can rub the two sheets together while they're warm to make sure that B sheet is in contact with that single layer of toner on the A foil, or we take our printed A foil sheet, the blank side of our B sheet, make sure to carefully put the two together, and then feed them into our laminator.
I've been using a laminator for a while now. It's awesome.
Well,
Wow.
as far as the laminator is concerned, it kind of slows down the process, in my opinion, so to speak, because we've got to take the time to physically feed through. But if you have to prepare a lot of shirts, let's say at one time, putting them through the laminator, it's great for prep work, because once these two sheets go through the laminator, even though the two sheets might cool down, they're still relatively stuck together. So when we put them on our heat press and we heat them for the 1.5 to 2 minutes, we should be fine. The main thing is just to make sure that we drive out those air bubbles that could happen between the A foil and the B sheet. And you got to be especially careful with that when you're using a single toner layer, like from a monochrome printer, or if you're only using your white toner and your white toner laser. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover with your group today is, yes, we can use a single toner layer when we're weeding flex off material. We just might have to take a little bit more precaution when we're putting our A sheet and B sheet together to make sure that we get successful weeding.
Awesome.
So after you run it through the laminator, do you need to put it in the press, or are you ready to peel?
Yeah, you still need to put it in the press. We still need to put it in there for 1.5 minutes. But just to kind of show you this side here, you see basically what the laminator has done, and I'm trying to catch it so where it catches in the reflection here. Basically, all this section in here is essentially fused where my design belongs. So yeah, once we run it through the laminator, we put it on our heat press. Heat it for the proper temperature, time, and pressure, like Forever recommends, and we should be good to go. But like I said, I kind of wanted to cover these tips because what most people want to do, especially when they want to try out FlexSoft at first, it's tempting to get the least expensive equipment or the minimum piece in order to do the job. While you can do that, like I said, we just have to take a little bit of extra precaution to make sure that our transfers weed on a consistent basis. If you basically want to take a lot of the guesswork out of it, like I said, to me, the best printer for operating FlexOff is a standard 4-color process printer because we can use that composite black. We can lay down a consistent toner layer, and we really don't have to worry about this. But if all you have is a $100 monochrome printer, taking some extra precaution, like rubbing your 2 sheets while they're hot, or going out and getting an inexpensive laminator to partner with your system, will go a long way in reducing the amount of screw ups you have from bad weed attempts.
Yep, I'm with you, Doug, because
All right.
yeah,
Well,
that's you know,
since
to
I've only
me,
got 15 seconds left here,
Doug, in
we'll
general,
peel this one.
what is the FlexOff good for?
Well, basically what FlexSoft is good for, David, is any type of vinyl application where you don't feel like picking and weeding vinyl. What I love about FlexSoft is because we can get basically so fine-tuned with our laser printer, because we can print at
So it will
such a...
do photographs.
Oh, yeah. We could do like off-color or what they call bitmap photo reproductions or halftone photo reproductions, as well as intricate designs like this. Now you see, that one weeded just as well, and I didn't have to do the rub against the B sheet like I did previously because we ran it through the laminator.
Can you press it on a shirt?
Yeah, I guess we can press it on a
Yeah,
shirt.
I want to see it. I want to see something, you know?
Yeah, David's a man of action here, so
yeah, that's right.
let's go ahead. Now, as a little note here, once we have our design weeded, make sure to do another trim of the edge, because sometimes the edge will pick up a little bit of emulsion residue off that B sheet, and we don't want a box or outline around our design, especially since the boss is watching, you know, so we might as well take the steps and get it right.
Right.
So let me reach down here.
So do you have a t-shirt available or something?
I happen to have this Hanes Beefy Tee 100% cotton shirt. Let me go ahead.
Doug is swimming in t-shirts.
Okay.
He would injure himself trying to get back to his desk with all the t-shirts.
Well, speaking of t-shirts, this one I happen to be wearing now came off of my 8432 about 4 or 5 months ago. It's been through the washing machine at least 20, 25 times and holding up beautifully. So, again, one of the reasons we love this technology here. So let me go ahead, get my shirt on the platen. You know I'm a stickler for sticky lint rollers. Yes, dollar sticky lint rollers are an essential part of the transfer man's toolbox.
Yes,
because remember, when we drop this press down, if there are any unwanted filaments on that shirt, they're going to be a permanent part of the shirt once we heat it. So I'm going to preheat my shirt just for a couple of seconds. Get that area smoothed out. Let's take Mr. Gross's butterfly. Here we go.
So is David going to wear that t-shirt?
I should make him.
My family went to see the Rolling Stones Monday night.
Really?
And I elected to stay home. So, you know, if I wore something home today, it would probably be Rolling Stones related, which would probably mean that I've broken, you know, some copyright law. So But
Well, not if we make one for demonstration purposes,
so
Mr. Gross.
Rolling Stone shirt, because the FlexOff digitizes so well because there is no weeding involved, and that's what. So it's like digital vinyl. I mean, it is still my favorite product outside of course, Sublimation.
Yes. So at this point, what we want to do is just let this transfer cool down. I'll go ahead and employ this sophisticated cooling technique that we developed here in the labs at Condi. Lots of R&D went into this cooling process. But remember, when it comes to FlexOff, just like the other Forever product, the low temp laser dark, it's a cold peel off the garment.
So Doug, I have another question for you. Are you going to be teaching at the Sublimation Summit?
Cheryl, am I going to be teaching at the Sublimation Summit?
Absolutely.
Do I have an invite to that?
So let me try to understand that, Cheryl. So will there be things happening at the Sublimation Summit that are not sublimation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There we go.
And in fact, I think FlexOff will be at the Sublimation Summit.
as in forever?
Yes, and it is an amazing product. This happens to be one of my favorite products to use. I mean, this is an unbelievable product.
We have a sample pack here at Condi that's not much money, and it has basically all the colors, and we're in the process of adding a new color. Doug, what new color are we adding?
Well, first, let me show off the shirt here.
That is
yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So basically, we weeded and printed this design while we were chit-chatting live on your show. Now,
look at that.
anyone else that can weed that design in under the time that it took us to chit-chat on this show, drop me a line, let me know so that I can nominate you for the Vinyl Hall of Fame, so to speak.
So let me ask you another question, Doug. Can you mix colors together?
You can mix colors if you know what you're doing. And the way that you do it is you start out with your darkest color first, and you work for darkest to lightest. So let's say, for the sake of argument, we were going to replicate the American flag in FlexOff, where we've got red, white, and blue. Depending on the color of the garment, basically we want to put down the darkest color first. So the darkest color, in my opinion, would be blue. Blue would go down first, then red, then white. But yes, if you do it in that order from darkest to lightest, you can stack, so to speak. As a matter of fact, I've seen examples of people mixing both FlexOff and low temp to create almost like a, multi-design effect, like something that you would normally do with a foil, but in a lot more durable method using the FlexOff material.
Okay, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
just look at this, Doug.
You see, done with the FlexOff or done with the Multitrans?
Done with the FlexOff.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I've been playing around with it on uncoated metal. Pretty neat, depending on the effect that you want to get. David was talking about a new color coming down the pipeline. There is a new color coming out. It is a metallic rose gold. Hopefully next week on your show, I'll give you kind of a preview of it, let you see it. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have it in stock, available and ready.
Okay, are you going to be at the NBN show? Are you going to be at the show?
I will be at the NBM show in Long Beach. Unfortunately, I have to miss this Meadowland show.
Okay.
But, hopefully Mom will get a good diagnosis and I will be back on the road soon. So, by the way, everyone in your group that has sent along her best wishes for her, let them know I appreciate it very much. Any thought and prayer is welcomed when it comes to fighting cancer. So, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Doug.
You guys enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Doug.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, it is all yours, Cheryl, to talk about this
Okay.
paper
Yeah.
subject. I'm going to turn off the
Take
compressor.
care. Okay, so what I did was, after viewing and having people ask me questions about whether or not I actually used, regular paper to print on, and the answer is yes, I certainly have. So these three papers are: this is regular paper, this is Textar print paper, and this is Dytrans paper. So I'm going to cut, and I'm actually going to press the exact same design on each paper just so you guys can see it as I print it, so that I'm going to do it on wood. I'm going to do it on material because I think it's really important. Because so what I found was, and I was saying this earlier, and honestly, it's we're really talking about pennies when it comes down to this paper. And everybody, not everybody, there are people who they're always looking for the best price, but sometimes the best price is not always the best price, because sometimes it costs you in substrates, it costs you in ruined substrates. And when I was testing this, and this had to be at least 5, 6, 7 years ago, what I found was that I could do it nicely on material. I could not get, first off, I couldn't get consistent, um, good designs on hard substrates. I couldn't get consistent at all on metal. Metal was the toughest one. So I have a cheap piece of metal that I'm going to do it on right now. I'm also going to do it on hardboard, and I'm going to do it on this material. So the way that it's going to work is the paper is going to be first, then we're going to do the Textar print, and then we're going to do the Dytrans. So because this is too long, I'm actually going to, I want these pieces to be exact. So David, if you could talk about, the difference in the release, because I know that that's what it really is about, is the release of the ink and the absorption of the ink in the
There's
paper.
really, you think of it as three things to consider on sublimation paper. So first is, people like me and just about everybody, we call it transfer paper, but it's not. All sublimation paper really is, it's designed to carry the ink from the printer to the heat press. That's the basic principle. So what makes one paper better than the other? The first characteristic is that the paper doesn't do anything weird when you hit it with lots of heat. And so generally the best sublimation papers are thermally stable. They don't shrink a lot. They pretty much stay the same, because if it shrinks, then you're going to see some blurring. It's not going to look as crisp. Number two is we want minimal dot gain. So, imagine you got some ink and you drop it on newspaper.
Well, I think you need to explain what that means, the dot gain.
Yeah, dot gain simply means when you drop the ink, for instance, on newspaper print, you know how it spreads out. It really grows significantly. And so what we're after with sublimation papers is minimal dot gain. So when the ink hits the paper, it doesn't grow into a bigger dot. It's very small. So minimal dot gain means small. And then the third characteristic is that the ink remains very, very close to the surface of the paper, because when it soaks in, it becomes much more difficult to get the ink off the paper. So when the ink is finally run up to its sublimation temperature, starts into the 350, 360, whatever, then that ink starts turning into a gas, and the gas is seeking a new home. And we call the process dye diffusion, because the ink is the gas version of the ink is diffusing into the substrates. And so what we're looking for is to have maximum release of the ink off the paper, minimal dot gain, and be thermally stable. And as you know, inkjet, sublimation inkjet papers are inexpensive, and so there's not a lot of money to save one way or another. But certainly, in order to achieve optimum results on a hard substrate, I think it's going to be difficult to beat a good grade of sublimation paper like our Dytrans paper.
Okay,
Soft substrate is
so
whatever
let
you think
me
best.
so let me show the people the results here. Okay, so this one is the plain paper. The middle one is Textar print, and the next one is Dytrans. Now, I doubt that you can actually really see it that well. I doubt it. But I can tell you from visually looking at it that the Dytrans definitely is more vibrant than the Textar print or the regular paper. So now I want to show you, here are the papers after they've been pressed.
And
So in
that's
order,
fabric that you pressed on? It's fabric?
it's polyester fabric, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So here are the papers. This is the regular paper. The middle is the Textar print, and that's the Dytrans paper. So this,
And how long did you press for?
60 seconds, 380.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. All right. So that would be great to see samples at the summit. Absolutely. We'll definitely do that. Again, I wish I could, I wish you could see this, because though it's slight, it is slight, and but there is definitely a difference in the paper versus in Dytrans, and it's almost like it's it's like it's good, it gets better, and then it gets really good. So it's all right, we're going to move on, but this is really interesting to me. You can definitely see the Dytrans was the better out of all three of them in
Are you
terms of
gonna
vibrancy.
do it on metal? You're
I'm
gonna do
sorry.
another transfer on metal?
I
Are you
am.
gonna
I'm
do one
gonna
more?
do. I'm
Okay,
gonna actually. I'm gonna do more than that. I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it on wood. I'm gonna do it on ceramic, and I'm gonna do it on metal.
gotcha.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We are going to do it. So I think it's important. It's like, um, again, I think the inconsistency that I experienced previously, I would not spend my money on hard substrates to use regular paper to end up with shoddy results. So, all right, once again, we're going to do
And
exactly
then
the same
I
thing.
got Sandy, as I said, to send you a pack of jet coal so you could also put it into the mix and see how it compares.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
and so, I think paper is
We're going to
always a
do
fun
hard
thing to.
substrates right now. So
Okay.
I don't know that they necessarily need to see me press, but um, all right. So
So,
just I'm not
I
I'm
always
not
think
doing what I would
the
normally do. I'm not spraying it. I'm just laying it down. But this is hard. This is the hardboard, and I actually would like to get a better piece of metal than, because I got that real thin metal. So this is at 390 for 1 minute. And
What brand of metal?
It's that real thin metal.
Okay.
I think it's a, I don't remember the brand, but you know what I'm talking about. It's really super thin.
So
let me go get another piece of metal.
Chinese metals that are ultra thin, but in the metal business, again, sort of good, better, best. In the trophy business, they use a lot of what we call Dynasub. Dynasub is you have to do it right, or you'll run into problems. But yeah. And that sound means we're done.
Well, I'm trying, you guys. I'm trying. I was trying to cut a piece of metal. Okay, here we go. Okay, so.
By the way, in case you're wondering why I'm here doing the videos, it's because we're shooting our YouTube, formal videos right now, and so busy in our demo room. We're doing videos today on the official instructions for the Caesar Easy Subli vinyl.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so again, you're going to have a hard time seeing this, but this is so again opposite. So this is the regular paper. That's the Textar print, and that's Dytrans. So what's really interesting is that, and you probably cannot tell in the picture, but this, how it has like, almost like when you press something, it almost has like a little cloudiness to it, like, spotty. So this is kind of spotty. So again, I don't know if you can really tell, but you can definitely see the difference. The other one, am I explaining that right? It's almost like the ink is almost like dispersing out or something, and so it's making like these little spots. The other is like, it's smooth. That's, David, am I making any sense?
It's all about visual, and you just describe what you see,
I know, but is there a technical term for that?
I don't have any technical terms. If you were using a sublimation paper and you had those things happen, we would say it's a moisture issue, typically.
Okay.
That's
exactly what that looks like. That's exactly what it looks like. So versus like these two look really good. Both of these look really good. This one has that splotchy, cloudy, like you would get with moisture. That's exactly how.
It could be moisture. It might not be, but moisture is a plague in sublimation, and that's why we recommend drying the transfer before you press.
I think it would be consistent with the other ones as well.
Yeah. So
okay, so
thank you for the
Yeah, so I'm going to do another one now, and I'm going to do a different, I'm going to do a thinner hardboard. And this time I'm going to put, just so we can see for sure, I'm going to put a piece of material over it. And again, we'll do the exact same thing. I will put the paper, Textar print, and then dye trans. And so let's do this. But you can actually
So,
see
you
it
know,
on the paper. That's
the
interesting too.
better the grade of paper, typically the sharper the print is. But in the large format world of sublimation, the papers there are definitely more exotic, if you will, because most people that do large format sublimation are doing fabric. They're doing soft substrate transfers. And so the papers in that market very much are tuned for even greater release. In our world, in the desktop world, there is not that I know of at least, not a high release fabric paper. All the papers pretty much are what we would refer to as general purpose, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe there is a need for a very high release soft substrate paper.
Okay, so I'm just looking at some of the comments. Okay, when I compared copy paper to dye trans paper on material, I lost some of the detail on the copy paper press. Okay, I have never been brave enough to try copy paper. Substrates are too expensive. I agree with you, Carrie. Okay, I did mine on material that cost me $1. Laugh out loud, David. Nice commentary, David. Okay, so let's see.
And what I tell people is if it works for you, you know, keep doing it. Um, um, but again, if you're using an expensive substrate, then I certainly recommend a good grade of sublimation paper. If you're playing around and you don't care, well, you know, then pretty
So
much
you
you
can,
know,
yeah, so you can,
like my favorite quote from Alice in Wonderland when she encounters one of those critters along the way, and Alice comes to the fork in the road. You know that one, and basically Alice says, you know, which way should I go? And ask Alice, you know, where do you want to go? And she says, well, it doesn't matter to me. And the answer was, well, either way, we'll take you there.
okay. So you can really tell the difference here.
I'm gonna be
So
right
this,
back. Be right back.
okay, well, do you see this, David? Okay, so you can see how light this one is. This is regular paper. This is the dye trans, and I'm sorry, this is the Textar print, and that's I don't know which camera I'm actually supposed to be, but can you see that? I think it's this one. Can you see the difference? Wow, so this is putting a piece of poly on top of it to absorb moisture, but you can really see the difference. I mean, this quite a bit of difference. Okay, so now
Which one worked out best on that?
I would say that both the dye trans and the Texar print were definitely look pretty even, but the regular paper was extremely light.
Huh.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
So, and that was putting a piece of material on top of it. Okay, so now I'm going to do this cheap piece of metal. So I have just a cheap piece of metal. I'm also going to use a quality piece of metal. And again, I'm cutting.
Yeah, let me just say, comment on that. So one of the decisions or the thinking process is certainly around here is that if you're encountering a substrate that's really thirsty. In other words, um, it will take in a lot of ink, or it needs a lot of ink to look good.
Hmm.
Then using a sublimation paper is probably a very wise thing to do. So, for instance, um, you know, sandstone coasters really will grab a lot of ink, and they look just amazingly well. And that's what you're after. You're after giving it a lot of ink. And so the better the paper, the more ink you can get off the paper. Um, and so, but in the desktop world, we've got a handful of papers that work quite well, I think. Um, but the paper world, as we go to the big printers, becomes
But
progressively more complex.
the thing that I don't understand is this is cheap enough to do that we don't need to, this paper, it's not like companies are making a fortune by selling these papers. it
Correct.
it's
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 not a lot of money. And
right.
I tell people that are pinching pennies, I go, hey, whatever floats your boat, but um, is are you saving any money in relation to ruining substrates?
That's
Um,
my point exactly. That's why I'm doing this, because I think people need to see that, it's and again, this is the part of the inconsistency that you would get when doing hard substrates is like, all of a sudden it's very light in color, though you pressed it the same way. So let's.
yeah, I did have one more comment, Cheryl, and that is that another, while we're on the world of sublimation paper, which in the grand scheme of things is fairly boring compared to substrates, um, there are papers out there that work great if you're using an Epson printer with sublimation ink, but they're not going to work very well with a Ricoh based printer. And the reason is Ricoh printers use a ink formula that is much more dense. 1 milliliter of the Ricoh inks is the same as 3 milliliters of Epson inks, and so typically the Epson papers are not going to be good candidates for Ricoh printers. The Dytrans paper works across the board simply because we poured a lot of money into it to make it work. But typically, be cautious about buying a sublimation paper off Amazon or eBay and expecting it to work properly, even though it's quote quote a sublimation paper.
Okay, so I want to make a comment. Though, people might say, well, that would be good enough for me. Okay, like, I mean, these are definitely much more vibrant than this. Um, if you're looking at it, I mean, it's you would say, oh, it's good. It's got that blotchiness to it again. For somebody who knows sublimation and who wants to represent it well, to me that would not be acceptable. I would not sell that to a customer. And maybe because I'm harder than some people are, but I would not find that acceptable to me. Um, Knowing that I could achieve that versus this. But I think that people do the same thing when it comes to the heat press. It's like you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that you can achieve better results with a good heat press until you actually do it side by side. And it's amazing the difference. So I think, I was talking to Jimmy Lamb the other day about it, and I said, cheap and sublimation do not belong in the same sentence. And I post that all the time, when people go, well, what's the cheapest way for me to get into sublimation? And I say, cheap and sublimation don't belong in the same sentence. And it's, but yet at the same time, this is one of the least expensive businesses that you could start up and really make a lot of money. So that's my little, whatever you want to call it, soapbox. And now I'm off of it. Okay, so I'm gonna go cut the metal, David. So you talk. It's 5 o'clock, but you can talk to
Yeah.
him.
So
I'm gonna go
just
cut
to
the
be
metal.
confusing but fun, don't you love that in the
Mhm.
sublimation world? Confusing and fun. Um, so if you don't have a printer and you want to do sublimation, you can use markers. And these are obviously dispersed dyes, which is sublimation, in the marker, and you color with them. And the question with markers is, well, what paper should you use? And this is I'd say is there's a couple of schools of thought, but one would be you can use plain paper, and plain paper actually works quite well simply because you can't get details with markers. It's not like you're printing a photograph. Um, and so that would be an example where, by all means, use cheap plain paper with the markers. But on the other hand, if you wanted to do a hybrid kind of design, let's say it's Christmas kind of thing for the kiddies, and you do a design on your computer, and in the design, you actually create an area for personalization with the marker. So it's a hybrid kind of design. You'd want to print it on sublimation paper, and then the kiddies can color in the area for personalization, and you've got you a very expensive, rich sublimation products. But in the case of the markers, we would lean towards using only plain paper, simply because most of these papers that are sublimation papers, they work because of often because of the clay coatings that are on the surface of the paper. They're coated papers. And if you're using markers and you're scraping the paper, you're probably getting those coatings to come off, and they could get in the marker tip. So in general, with markers, plain paper is the best choice.
Okay, so I'm going to now press the better metal, and let's just see what we get here.
So what's the future for papers? I would say that I think it's a never-ending quest, but on the other hand, because there's relatively little money in it, papers are inexpensive. Often there's not a lot of motivation for us to introduce yet another paper that may save you a little money, because what we're really after is just a paper that never becomes an issue. It is just consistent. It doesn't change. It just works. So that's the challenge. But the new jet coal paper, which is essentially by the company called Coldenhoff that invented sublimation papers, we've had a lot of fun with it, and it gives a little bit more release without giving up much dot gain. So again, it's one of those kinds of things where we're always trying to study things. Now, in the large format world, where we profile substrates, inks, and papers on a regular basis, having a paper that releases more ink can allow you to use less ink. In other words, you can throttle back the amount of ink you put on the paper. So we'll just see how things go. Um, but again, the best sublimation paper is pretty much the paper that never causes you any issues.
Yeah, I would agree. But and again, I think having, like when you're in production and you have to, you have to do 50 mugs. You want to have a consistent look to them and not have a variation because of your paper, which you certainly can get if you're not using the correct paper. So again, I think it's going to be hard to tell, but this has the same, it's not as tough on this one as it was on, ouch, 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 hot. Anyway, but this one is a regular paper. I'm going to tell you that I think both the Texar print and the dye trans both came out fabulous. This one has, some of the blotchiness, and let me see if I can put it on.
Also, a good test would be to transfer to a piece of mouse pad material. Mouse pad material is just darn weird in its sublimation characteristics. It's unusual in so many ways, and so it'd be interesting to compare
Well,
plain
I just
paper.
happen to have one that we're gonna do. So let's do it.
But neoprene is unusual in so many ways.
Okay, so let's do it.
But just to go back, we in our instructions generally we'll call out what paper we think is the best, paper.
For that.
And but people transfer to a lot of weird substrates. For instance, have a friend of mine that he focuses on sublimating to corian, the countertop material, and the existing papers out there, none of them work very well because corian is just weird. It has what's called a low T sub G, which is the glass transition point of coatings. It's when it softens a little bit. And the new jet coal paper seems to work quite well in that. There's also a lot of people out there that sublimate to a plastic kind of material called Kyvex. And Kyvex is thermally formed into other products like gun holsters. And again, very difficult to sublimate to it. And people have come up with all these weirdo papers that seem to work. And the jet coal paper is probably going to work better than those. So, but if you're on the beaten path, if you're transferring to great substrates, could be unisub, it could be acrylic, it could be glass, then I would tell you to always do an A/B comparison before changing.
Well, so the one thing I'll say about this, consistently, if I looked at this, I would know which one was the regular paper just from the standpoint of the blotchiness on the metal. And I don't want to ruin, I thought I had some broken tile, but I don't want to ruin a good tile for it. I just don't.
And the blotchiness is probably because some of the ink went a little bit deeper into the paper than other parts of the ink, and it has trouble getting off the paper. When it turns into a gas, it's a little bit uneven. And the people who made the paper, they're not trying to get this document in the Smithsonian. They're not after some sort of museum quality printing on that paper. That's not the goal of what they were trying to achieve.
Okay, so let's take a look at it.
So what do you think?
Okay, so definitely not as vibrant, much like it actually in real life, it looks much like this piece. the like the purples are not as deep. Um, you can just tell it. There's just not the vibrancy is not the same. There's it's almost like the ink didn't go all the way in or something. I mean, I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if it's
It's hard to tell. Yeah, it's hard.
so what do you guys think? What do you guys, you know, what's your thoughts on it? I think it I think that there's definitely maybe I could it's just hard. But visually there's no comparison really. I mean, you can does anybody have a comment about it? I would love to hear your comments. I don't know. I can see the difference. Yeah. Yeah. There is definitely a difference. There's no doubt about it.
And of course, another test would be on photographs. You know how the on the like Chromolux metal, what we're after is incredible detail, and and for instance, one of the extreme tests of a printer that's using a good paper is, can we print a detailed, like an image or photograph, and then have a viewing distance of, say, only a few inches? So you can imagine transferring a photograph or something to a keychain that's designed to have a close viewing distance as opposed to something on the wall. And that's really where you're getting down to, are you maintaining a sharpness in your image,
yes.
or does it look a
But
little blurry?
David, honestly, when you look at all of this, I mean, and Barb says, why waste your ink on copy paper, because there is such a big difference. And clearly there is a difference. Okay, major difference. There's quite a difference. I can see a difference. Why waste the ink? Okay, we see the difference. I think your test shows that copy paper will not give you the best results. I'd rather spend a little more to save on the substrate and give the customer the best and most consistent graphically colors. Absolutely. Graphical colors.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I know it comes to money, but it's these kind of discussions are more the kind of things that I like to do, as opposed to being a money issue. How can you improve the process? What can you do to make it easier? What can you do to make it more reliable? What can you do to have even better results? And again, papers are just one of those kind of components. Um, and every day we're wanting better inks, better paper would be great, better substrates, and that to me is what we're here for. To every day figure out something that's going to allow you to do it better.
Well, and again, I think when you look at this stuff, you realize that it's not, I mean, to me, you realize it's not worth saving a few pennies um, with this stuff, with with copy paper. It's not worth it ultimately because of the inconsistency. And again, you don't know what you don't know, but when you're comparing apples to apples, there is definitely a difference. And again, if you don't know what you're looking for, and you don't if you I mean, because it's hard on some of these to actually tell. Again, the cloudiness, that's, I mean, the one was a little vague. It was like, oh, it was there, but then you see some of them and you're like, wow. I mean, that's a huge difference. It's just not. It's not worth it. It's not worth
Yeah,
the
and I think you nailed it. If you
inconsistency.
don't compare it against something, then everything looks good. You know.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
And so it's like let's say you under sublimate something. Well, if you don't have anything to compare it against, then well, you don't know. Like your comment about the heat press was right on. If you never had a good heat press and you don't know what one does as far as even cooking, because black is the last color to sublimate, how deep and rich are your blacks?
Yeah. Yeah. So Lisa says, if I'm making something for a customer, I want the best. If I'm making something for myself or family, I want the best because that is my advertising. Absolutely. Actually, Lisa, I thought you were going to say, oh, I don't care. And I was going to say, what? Because I do care, because it speaks about me. It speaks about the quality that, that I'm making and that I'm representing. So for me, it would be a
Yeah.
big deal. This would definitely it would definitely be a big deal for me.
Let me
And
throw this in real quick. So, um, we more and more our instructions are going to reflect that we want you to dry the paper by placing it underneath your heat press without closing it for say 5 to 10 seconds. And I cannot exactly understand why this is a bigger issue than it was say 2 years ago, but there's no doubt in my mind that either the ink is drying a little bit slower, maybe the paper's drying a little bit slower. It's hard to understand, but
or the
nonetheless,
moisture.
you need to just take a couple of seconds and put it underneath the heat press to dry it. And if you'll notice with the Subla Easy, that is an absolute in the stone mandatory step for that product. You've got to dry the product or it will not work. And so if you direct print onto the Subla Easy, you have to dry it, period, end of story.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting with the Easy Subly. I think it's a game changer for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are just absolutely
Yeah, one
going.
one comment I was going to throw in about this Subla Easy, we now have finished our Spectrofusion profile for the Subla Easy for use with the SublaJet HD printers. The essentially whether you have a Ricoh or 400, 800, we now can support people who want to direct print to the vinyl from Silhouette, whatever. So if you have a Ricoh 7000, 3300, 3110, 7100, SG 400, 800, and you want to use the Subla Easy vinyl, we now can support that.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we don't have any questions here. If you guys have any questions, let us know. Um, and it doesn't look like, but I don't know if I missed any either. I don't think so.
So I'm trying to
Okay.
think of anything else of a news kind of thing. So next week, next Friday, we will be at the NBM show in Secaucus. So
We
we'll
will.
figure out some way to do something live there. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great show. It was a great show last year. If you can come out, we've got our class. I believe our class is Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. I think that's when it is. So,
Really?
come on out.
So
Yep.
it's not 8 in the morning like
Thank
it normally
goodness.
is.
I would, I often prefer getting started early, and so that's the advantage. But whatever reason, teaching a class real early in the morning, that's not something I've enjoyed. But hey, once you get on a roll, good.
Right.
And as always, Cheryl, the first person that comes up to me uh,
Is
says,
that they are in my group, they're going to get a $25 coupon. So yay for you,
Absolutely.
whoever that is. So Lisa,
Absolutely. And
go
go ahead.
ahead. Well, Lisa wants to know, where do we get the easy Subly profile, I guess, that works with anything.
You call in and we will install it. So um, technically, you don't need to know this, but this is how it's going to work out. So the current method we're doing to make things simple is we are installing another printer. So you'll have a printer that basically says something to the effect of Subla Easy. And that's the printer that you'll print so that you have the correct profile and the correct driver settings for the vinyl, because they're considerably different than traditional sublimation settings. So with the Subla Easy, you have Plan A, Plan B. Plan A is print on the vinyl. Plan B is print on paper and then sublimate to the vinyl. So you have both. I will tell you that I think our approach is the best approach for many reasons, and especially if you're a Macintosh person. If you're a Macintosh person, the Sawgrass makes a great ink. They've done a great job working with Rico on the printer, but on the Mac VPM, you cannot print directly to the printer. There is no file print for a Mac. You have to save it and then put it in the hot folder and let VPM do it. And I've had trouble with my crop marks, and I don't know a way around that. I got frustrated over it. So if you're a Mac person, then you absolutely should take us up on our offer to use our method of printing, because you get better color, and it works properly with Silhouette.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up. It's almost 5:30. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun, David.
Say again?
I said time flies when you're having fun.
Yep.
So
So we
I
thank you as always, and we
yeah, and I hope
appreciate
this was helpful
everybody.
to people. I really do. I hope that others watch it and they're benefited from understanding the types of paper that can be used for sublimation. So
Yeah, and we'll stay tuned. I sent you some jet coal. Let me know what you think. Um, and we will continue to innovate. I think there's lots and lots and lots of great innovations, in
yes.
this industry.
Okay,
Okay.
so yeah, several comments. Thank you. It was helpful. It was good discussion. So yeah, good. That's what it's about. We want to educate you. So
Well, y'all
yay.
take care.
All right, you
Thanks.
too, David. Thank you. Have a
Bye
great
bye.
night, everyone.
Y'all too.
All right.